You've been working for years now. You wake up early, go to work, deal with stress, deadlines, expectations, and at the end of the month, you tell yourself, at least I'm doing better than before. But are you? Look, your salary went up. That's true. Maybe you even started saving. Maybe you tried investing. But somehow your bank account still feels fragile. One unexpected expense, and everything falls apart. One bad month, and you're back to square one. Here's the thing. It doesn't feel like progress. It feels like you're just managing the struggle better. Now you might be thinking, maybe I just need to earn more. But this is where it gets really interesting. There are people making six figures who are drowning in debt, and there are people earning half that, quietly building real wealth. So what's the difference? Because clearly, income isn't the full story. And if that's true, then the real question isn't how much you make. It's what your money is actually doing for you. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, most people don't have a money problem. They have a money understanding problem, because from a young age, we're told to do the same things. Study hard, get a good job, earn a stable income. And to be fair, that's not bad advice, but it's incomplete. Here's what most people don't realize. Nobody really teaches you what happens after you start earning. No one explains. Why your expenses grow with your income. Why saving alone isn't enough. Why you can feel financially stuck even when you're doing everything right. So you end up confused. You're working harder, but not getting ahead. Earning more, but not feeling richer. Now you might be thinking, so what am I missing? That's exactly what we're going to break down in this video. Because once you understand this, you'll stop guessing and start making smarter financial decisions. Let's start with what most people believe. They think money works in a straight line. Low income means you're poor. Average income means you're middle class. High income means you're rich. Simple, logical, easy to understand. But here's the thing. Real life doesn't work like that. Look, there are people making $40,000 a year who have savings, no debt, and peace of mind. And there are people making $150,000 who are stressed, in debt, and one paycheck away from a financial crisis. So what's going on? Here's what most people don't realize. Income tells you how much money comes in. It doesn't tell you what stays. And what stays? That's everything. Now you might be thinking, okay, but making more money still helps, right? Of course it does. But this is where it gets really interesting. If your spending grows as fast as your income, then nothing actually changes. You just upgrade your lifestyle, not your life. So instead of measuring wealth by income, you need to look at something deeper, something more honest. Your net worth. So let's slow this down and make it real. Net worth sounds complicated, but it's actually simple. It's just one equation. What you own minus what you owe. That's it. Your savings, investments, property, that's your assets. Your loans, credit cards, debt, that's your liabilities. And the difference between those two numbers? That's your real financial position. Look, you can look successful on the outside, nice car, good income, upgraded lifestyle. But if all of that is financed by debt, then your net worth might actually be negative. Now you might be thinking, okay, but how does this play out in real life? Let's take three people. One earns six figures but is buried in debt. Another earns less but owns what they have. And a third has built assets over time. Same economy, different outcomes. This is where it gets really interesting. Because when you stop looking at income and start looking at net worth, you start seeing the truth behind people's financial lives. So now that you understand what net worth actually is, let's put it into perspective. Because numbers only matter when they have meaning. Look, most people don't know where they stand financially. They just assume based on income, job title, or lifestyle. But net worth tells a different story. Here's a simple way to think about it. If your net worth is negative, or close to zero, you're financially vulnerable. It means your debt is controlling your future. One bad event, job loss, medical bill, emergency, and everything starts to shake. Now, once you move into positive territory, say 50,000 to a few 100,000, you're in a more stable zone. You have breathing room, you have options. But this is where it gets tricky, because this level feels safe. And that feeling, it slows people down. This is where it gets really interesting. The people who eventually become wealthy don't stop here. They keep building until their money starts working for them. And that's when everything changes. Not just your finances, but your entire relationship with money. Let's talk about the part most people underestimate, the math. Because look, wealth building isn't magic. It's not luck. It's not timing the perfect stock. It's just numbers and time. Here's the thing. If you invest $500 a month, it doesn't feel like much. It actually feels slow, almost pointless. Now you might be thinking, how is $500 going to make me rich? And that's exactly why most people stop. Because in the beginning, nothing impressive happens. After 1 year, it's small. After 3 years, still underwhelming. But this is where it gets really interesting. Around year 10, things start to pick up. Around year 20, the growth becomes noticeable. And by year 30, that's when it explodes. Not because you suddenly invested more, but because your money started working harder than you. Look, the first phase is driven by your effort. The second phase is driven by compound growth. And most people quit before they ever reach that second phase. That's the real problem. So if the math is simple, why don't more people build wealth? Because the real battle isn't mathematical. It's psychological. Look, your brain is not designed to build long-term wealth. It's designed to keep you comfortable right now. That's why instant gratification feels so powerful. You get your paycheck, and your first instinct isn't to invest. It's to reward yourself. A better phone, a nicer meal, a small upgrade, and individually these decisions feel harmless. But over time, they quietly destroy your ability to build assets. Now here's another one, loss aversion. You hate losing money more than you enjoy gaining it. So when your investments drop, even temporarily, you panic. You sell, you stop investing, you freeze. But here's the thing. Those short-term losses are normal. They're part of the process. And then there's lifestyle inflation. You earn more and immediately spend more. So even though your income increases, your net worth barely moves. This is where it gets really interesting. The people who build wealth aren't just better with money. They're better at managing their own behavior. So what's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who actually build wealth? It's not just discipline. It's how they see money. Look, most people focus on earning. They ask, how can I make more? But wealthy people ask a different question. What do I own? Because income is active. Ownership is leverage. This is where it gets really interesting. If you stop working today, your income stops. But if you own assets, stocks, real estate, businesses, those can keep generating value without your time. That's the shift. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I have debt. I can't invest yet. Fair, but let's be honest about it. Not all debt is the same. High-interest debt, that's urgent. Kill it. Low-interest debt, that's manageable. So the real question becomes, are you avoiding investing because of strategy or because of fear? Because a lot of people stay stuck not because they can't move, but because they don't feel ready. And that hesitation, that's what costs them years. So let's bring this down to something you can actually use. Because understanding all of this means nothing if you don't act on it. Look, the first step is simple but uncomfortable. You need to know your number, your real number. List everything you own, list everything you owe, and face it. No guessing, no avoiding. Because here's the thing. You can't improve what you refuse to measure. Now, once you have that number, your job is clear. Increase the gap. Grow your assets, reduce your liabilities, and do it consistently. Not perfectly, consistently. Now, you might be thinking, what if I start small? Good. Start anyway. Because small, repeated decisions are what build real wealth. Not big, one-time moves. Control your lifestyle as your income grows. Automate your investments. Stay in the game long enough to let time do its work. And most importantly, stop thinking like someone who just earns money. Start thinking like someone who builds wealth. Because once that shift happens, you're not stuck anymore. You're just getting started.